Hello and welcome to the first session of Clause Play. Very excited to be taking you through some different ways of playing with clauses to help improve your contracts, both the contract document, the contract experience of your internal users, the contract experience, and the experience that your clients, customers, suppliers have with your business, and just generally making the world of business a better place to be in. And that's what contract operations is all about. So we're going to be playing with clauses. And today, a drum roll, our clause that we're going to be playing with is notice clauses. So you might have seen notice clauses getting around in some of your different business contracts that you work with or work on. And often they look like this. This is kind of a fairly typical example. And I often call notice clauses a bit of a canary in the mine for contract design. And the reason for that is if you can see this little fella here, facsimile, if you have a hunt for a notice clause in a contract, you will often find some of the things that have been left behind, and it will show you whether or not a business is up to date in its practices. Facsimile is probably not happening in your business. Do you really want to be getting notices from via post for legal information? Will it get to you in time? If you're a large company or if your formal notice for addresses is your accountant, you might not get all of the legal notices on time. You might actually prefer them to be via email to a specific dedicated email address. So notice clauses, to back up probably a little bit before, why they're important, often goes back to this idea of the postal rule and when offers could be accepted or when you're going to terminate an agreement. And if the timing is critical, if you have to, for example, give 30 days notice to terminate before an automatic renewal, for example, you want to make sure that you're sending off that notice within this certain amount of time. And on the flip side, if you have the right to increase prices, for example, and you have to give 60 days notice before the end of a particular amount of time, then again, you want to make sure that when I tell my clients this information or when I tell my supplier this information, it's valid and binding. So those are some of the reasons to have good notice clauses in your agreements. And some of these little peculiarities around faxes and things is one of the reasons why it's not a bad one to just kind of get started with redesign on. Also because they're often at the back of the agreement, which is very text heavy, often slabs of text, a bit boring. So if you can jazz up that back end of the agreement and break up the text, it can be pretty powerful. So let's go to some examples of uh, notice clauses in action. So I thought, well, let's take a look at what the big guns are doing. BHP, biggest company in Australia, according to Dr. Google's research. And I've gone onto their BHP website and to their supplier registration page, and I've gone onto their purchase order terms and conditions, which is supposedly, now hilariously, this is supposed to take 30 minutes to complete. I haven't looked at the purpose charter and code of conduct. I have looked at the order terms and conditions. Now, do you think that you could read this 40-page document in 30 minutes? I don't think so. I might come back to that one if we do another clause play session on perhaps word length and what that means for timing. But that's factually incorrect if you're expecting your suppliers to have pre-read these documents. Anyway, putting that to the side, let's have a look at their notice clauses. So, oh, maybe there's no notice clauses. That would be awkward. So, notice of a change. It doesn't seem like they might ending the purchase order. There we go. The company can end it at any time on written notice. That's pretty hardcore. Um, Doesn't look like they have a specific notice clause that's set out somewhere. So there you go. That's not helpful. Normally they're at the back. All right, can't find it there. I wonder if they need it or if the notice is just generally spread out. You don't necessarily need one, but it's always nice to know how long time you need to give notices. So then I went over to Commonwealth Bank, and if you scroll down to the bottom, you might be expecting to see terms and conditions, but they've got theirs under important documents. So when you click on important documents, you'll be taken to this kind of important information. And you kind of have to figure out what important documents you want. This seems a bit strange to me. I'm surprised that this product categories, it feels like the client is supposed to know that terms and conditions would be under bank accounts. Anyway, so if you click on bank accounts, then you've got to know what type of bank account you want. Finally, here's a document that says terms and conditions. So let's go to our terms and conditions. So that's the document that we're in here. Again, how many pages are we looking at here? 34 pages for these terms and conditions. It's pretty long. Again, I think there'd be quite a bit of reading in it. Oh, there's a few visuals. That's kind of fun. Are these clickable? No, that would be handy if these were clickable because there's some graphics there that could be really helpful if I could go to that section. Anyway, I digress. Let's find our notices clause. I found it before, so hopefully it's there. So here we can see we've got a statements and notices. However, one of the things that I've noticed on this notice is just that it seems to be one-sided. It's all about how CommBank can give their customers notices. But it doesn't seem like there's any particular method for the user to give a notice. So it's not mutual. So they can give notices and statements electronically. How they give them, how we give paper statements, we can change it. You can ask for a one-off paper statement fees. So it's not super clear, again, what is going on with this notices. If, uh, yeah. We can give you notices if the terms and conditions don't say that your statements will be given in a non-electronic way. So quite confusing and complex language there. Not something that you would necessarily expect everyone to understand. Let's go to Canva, one of my favorite brands getting around, and I'm sure it's a favorite of many people. Notices, here we go. So here is at least here we're saying that Canva here's the address for you to contact Canva. So everyone who's not in the US can send a legal notice to Surrey Hills, and if you're in the US, you can send it to this address here, which is quite interesting. Although I'm surprised, as you might be, that Canva is like, yeah, send us legal notices to a physical address. That's quite interesting. As a digital-based design platform, you would think that they would be all about having an email and kind of tracking the notices that they get and kind of keeping in contact with them. Then, strangely, this is how you send notices to us, but then they've got their notices down here. So we can send notices to you via email or other legally permissible means. So that's kind of a little bit, I mean, why not have them together, right? Then I wanted to show you one of the ways that I've done a redesign of a contract notice clause before. So if I pop this up, you can see that that's the same clause that I had shown up before. And one of the things that I mentioned is that you can use this notice clause to break up that back end of your document and make it a bit more engaging. So if I can, so this is the kind of after, let me make my little head a bit smaller. So you can see here, This wouldn't work in all branded situations, but you can, instead of having emojis, you can have icons, you can change the way that you want. And most people wouldn't necessarily accept hand delivery anymore, or maybe they would, but it's interesting that even just you can see just looking at it there, it breaks it up and makes it really clear. What else you might notice is that this is mutual. So you can see that we've got a mutual clause, anyone giving notice under this agreement. So that way it's, you know that it works for both parties, and it's not saying, well, you have to, buy a stamp and send us a letter versus we can just send you an email. And then it's got those specific times there, which over here is kind of broken up into these different, the different clauses and the sub clauses. Whereas here, it's in a table, it's much easier to break it down and say, well, I want to send a notice via email, and here's how I do it. Uh, so I'm interested in your thoughts. How would you redesign a notice clause? Uh, Often I've even kind of gotten rid of notice clauses in depending on the type of agreement that I'm working on, as long as there's a clear way to contact and whatever the specific contact method is. Generally, it's email these days. But if you've got a specific need, and this is often the case for large enterprise contracting relationships, if you're a supplier or if you've got lots of customers and you might have you might need to receive notices on, change notices, ordering more things, cancelling services. You want to have a nice, lean, easy to manage process and or web application. And if it's via a web application that people can turn things on and off, is that reflected in your terms and conditions? So just some fun thing. Well, I think they're fun things to think about. And yeah, would love to hear your thoughts on any of those play items. And that has been the first episode of Clause Play. So I hope you've had fun playing around with notice clauses. If you've got ideas on any clause that you would like us to play with, or any particular company's contract that you'd like to see us have get a little mitts into, reach out via Checklist Legal on Instagram, Checklist Legal wherever you can find us. Find me, Verity White. I am the Chief Contract Enthusiast at Checklist Legal, which is a B Corp certified commercial law firm where we redesign contracts to make life better. Tell me your thoughts. How would you play with a notice clause? Bye for now.